It has been a long 2 weeks, but we finally get beta branch 1.4.2. Now, this means that beta branch 1.4.1 is now the main branch, and you can find the patch notes for that right here. I will put a link to this in the description as always. And for those of you who don't know, there are a lot of really big changes that happened with 1.4.1 that were actually just simply hot fixes that we didn't get a mainline patch about. And those are now implanted into both the beta branch, because a lot of them apply to both, and now the new main branch. And a lot of it really has to do with starvation as a result of distribution of food, so on and so forth. Also, influence awards of some policies were adjusted to reduce influence inflation across kingdoms. And also there was a big, huge overhaul to the way that influence and voting is done for the faction and culture leaders. So that can all be, we've covered that in the past. I didn't want to go into it too heavy in this video, but I did want to kind of shine some light on that. But the focus here is beta branch 1.4.2. And it is a really awesome beta branch. Now, right off the gate, I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is probably one of the very few beta branches where you do not need to make a brand new save to take advantage of a lot of what's being added in 1.4.2. Now, if you have not made a new save in 1.4.1, I strongly recommend you to, because there's a lot of really awesome fixes that went in. So if you haven't done any new save, or a new campaign since 1.4, now's the time to do it, because you got a lot of awesome things to take care of or take advantage of. And if you want to get into the beta branch, just go ahead and right-click Properties on your Steam account. Go to, Properties on Bannerlord in your Steam account, and go to Betas, and then opt into the beta 1.4.2. So let's go through some of these patch notes, and then I'll show you in the game what they are all about, because not all of them really need an explanation. Some are pretty straightforward, and one is actually outside of the game I'm going to showcase in just a little bit here. So a lot of crashings, a lot of crash fixes happened. Some of them a little bit more on the rare side, to be totally honest, but fixed a crash caused by upgrading settlement projects, a crash that occurred when the army of poachers and family feud quest villages were the same village, and also there's an army of poachers quest fix we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But here's a real huge one. Save file compression was optimized by around 80%. And I'm going to show you the actual numbers on that, because it is massive. And increase the number of autosave files to 3. So now you're going to get 3 incremental autosaves when you're playing the game. So you've got various rollback kind of save points to jump back to. It's actually a really nice feature. And in conjunction with the save file optimization, it is huge. So you're not going to have these 40, 50 megabyte save files anymore. They're like 4 or 5 megabyte save files. It's pretty sweet. We'll show that in a little bit. Some localization changes here. Art fixed some snow texture issues in Khazad villages, and various model, material, and texture improvements for campaign map icons. Now, I will say, though, that this did implement some issues with texture overlapping and a little bit of glitching and clipping with what I've noticed. Any kind of male chest piece, like a Western male shirt that has also like a canvas kind of forearm protection, that now clips through gloves. Now, I'm sure that'll be fixed by the time this reaches main branch, and I'll showcase that when we jump into the game. But I did want to bring that up because it wasn't an intended fix or anything like that, but it is in the game. You'll see it. I'd say probably one of the largest things of this patch update here is the new clan screen UI. And we're going to go through this here. But basically, it allows you to move clan members' role assignments from the Parties tab to the Members tab, so it's way easier to deal with. Now, players can assign roles to clan members specific to parties that they're in. Now, this point right here, you cannot do this. You can't assign more companions to one party. But what this tells me is that you'll be able to do this in the future. And I'll show you what I mean when we jump into the game. Players can now rename their family members in the Clan Members tab. So not your companions, but your family members. Fiefs tab now shows towns and castles in different lists and contains bound settlements, notables in the settlements. The Parties tab now lists the amounts of each troop type that a party currently has. A very nice broken down, nice and neat quality of life update for the clan screen. And the other tab now shows more detailed information about workshops owned, which is amazing. It shows you what their output is, how much money they're making. It's a really cool, nice overhaul we're going to go into a little bit. The shift and control modifiers. So for those of you who don't know, the shift will add 5 to a stack. So if you want to say move 10 recruits from one location to another, if you hold down shift and click the arrow, it'll move 5. If you hold down Control, it'll move the entire group. In the past, it was only bound to the left shift and Control keys. Now it's both left and right sides of your keyboard, so you can use those as you see fit. Added missing one-handed and two-handed perk icons, which now no longer are they going to be little padlocks. There are some that are still padlocks, but they now have nice looking icons that kind of play a part of what they are. Fixed Kingdom Decision pop-up behavior for rulers. Fixed a bug that caused a likelihood percentage value next to the propose button to show incorrect values. So this hopefully fixes some of the things when it comes to discussing conversation options. I couldn't think of the word right there. I was like, what am I thinking of? But I've also heard that when you go to any kind of conversation, you have those modifiers that say, hey, this got a 45% chance of succeeding in this conversation. It crashes the game right now. I have not personally experienced it, but a number of other people have, and I'm sure we'll get a hotfix for that in the coming day or two. There was a hotfix that was already issued for the custom battles crashing, so I'm sure we'll get something of that sort as well. Fix localization issue in the custom battle screen. Fix some text not updating to the correct language. Fix execution pop-up visual error and a UI problem where wanderers in enemy towns are shown as red. Now we have some nice character development overhauls too, especially with the polearm skill perks. So all polearm skill perks which are related to combat were re-implemented and fixed. And we're going to show these in the game in a little bit here. Fixed charm, leadership, trade, and medicine perk bugs. They were added in 1.4.1, but it looks like some of them were still bugged, and this has now been fixed. Implemented secondary effects for both two-handed perks and polearm perks. Real nice. Fixed a false effect of smithing perks, and fixed issues with one-handed and two-handed perks as well, because I did just overhaul all of the one-handed and two-handed perks, as well as adding secondary effects to them, and some of them still had bugs that were implemented with those new changes. This has, of course, been now fixed. Clan and party, minor faction leaders were gaining too much money and their expenses were very low. This was causing gold inflation. This was fixed. Also, I've noticed that the UI colors for minor factions and villagers and such is now an interesting kind of light blue. And it's not necessarily that they are allied with you, because I'll notice that they are simply just a minor faction or a villager, but it's a light blue color now. So it's really interesting. It seems to be any neutral party that is not at war with you, but is not an aggressive party, is now light blue. Well, you guys can tell me if you see that otherwise in your playthroughs. Kingdoms and diplomacy, fix an issue with the behavior of safe passage deals when the player is in a besieged settlement. Settlement actions, town, village, castle, and hideout. Relation loss that occurs when a village is raided is no longer spammable, and it is now proportional to the amount of damage caused to the village. Players will still lose a fixed but reduced relation amount with village notables and the owning clan's leader when they initiated war by raiding the village during peacetime. It used to be just a static, hey, you lose 30 relation. So if you attack the village, kill everyone, and then leave and don't actually raid it, it's going to give you a different amount of relation loss now than it used to be. Like it says here, it's now proportionate. It's not just a massive hit to your relation here. And also, it's not in these patch notes. It's in the 1.4.1 hotfix. If you have a lot of wars, those are now fixed. It's in both these versions. So when you jump into your game, especially when you jump on 1.4.2, you're going to notice a lot of wars all of a sudden are going to ask you to vote on peace. If you are playing on 1.4.2 as of the making of this video, do not vote in that piece. It will crash your game. Just press cancel and let it kind of do its own thing. And we'll probably get that hot fix pretty soon here. So, new quest here, Scout Enemy Garrison added, which I have yet to actually find in the game, but I assume it's going to be something of the sort of getting in distance and finding out what the actual enemy garrison is. Maybe even trying to sneak into the city. Maybe that's part of the quest. I don't actually know. I have yet to actually find it on the map. But once I do, I'll put it in the comment section to let you know what it is. But a lot of balancing to the rewards and requirements for artisan overpriced goods. Gang leader needs to offload stolen goods and deliver the herd quest, so on and so forth. And then a lot of quest fixes for Family Feud, Army of Poachers, Lord Lady needs tutor, need help with bandits, so on and so forth. This one too, though, is a big one. Army of Poachers fixed a bug that caused the quest to be stuck if the player retreated from the poacher battle. A lot of people were having this problem. That has now been fixed. Also, need help with bandits quest. Valid hideout distance and valid party radius values were tweaked. So you should notice now a much smaller bandit hideout, when you go to do these quests, they shouldn't be the stacked 40-30 man parties like they were before. It should be a little bit lower before this quest triggers. If the bandit hideout has just one group in it, it's like 8 guys, then this quest won't trigger. But now it will trigger at a much lower rate, and you'll get access to this quest to trip off, and it won't be as far away from the town as it once was. Improvement for player look algorithm in conversation. Add a conversation option with non-hostile vassals, which are in an army without joining the faction that they are in. Ensure that characters whom the player meets in quests recognize the player later. Expand comments on game actions. And townspeople and villagers should now comment on available issues and quests. So this is only present if that issue or quest is in the town you're in. So you won't be able to talk to a villager in, say, Drappend, who will say that, hey, you know, there's a quest in Ox Hall, right? Like, they won't say that. It'll just be the people that are in that town. So when you go into the village and you talk to the random townspeople, they'll tell you that, hey, this clothier is making hand over fist, or this individual has an issue or a quest that you should go and talk to them about. And it's nothing like out overt like that. It's more like, oh, I heard that Durthert needed help with some garrison troops. I hope someone helps him. It's something kind of like, you know, ambiguous like that. Another big, huge one here is new noble weapons have been made and distributed amongst the fellow lords of Calradia. Now, there is more to this statement than just that. It seems to be that some sort of button was pressed that unlocked a lot of other weapons that we're going to look at when we jump into the game. I've noticed now that there are so many more maces that, while already existing in the game as drops or craftable, are now able to be purchased from the respective portions of the world. So there's a ton of eastern maces over in the Khazate area. The western portion of the map now has these different western bows you can take advantage of, and a lot of different maces as well. I've actually never seen like a cataphract mace purchasable. I've only ever gotten it as a loot, and now I can see it purchasable. So there's a lot more things that have just been added than just these noble weapons. A little bit of a mystery shadow patch note there that's not in there. Caravan guards, veteran caravan guards, and armed traders have better stats now, which will make attacking caravans a little bit harder. Also a little bit bigger. I've noticed that we got back to the 50-60 caravan route or manned caravans, and they're a little bit faster too. Fix an issue with agent orientation and hideout boss fights. Skins XML is now moddable. Now, the XML documents is referring to all of pretty much the back end of Mountain Blade, and I don't know exactly what this means from a modding standpoint, but hopefully it means that we can start to see new and different armor being modded into the game. Unfortunately, I'm not a modder. I don't know 100% about that, so someone could probably make a comment in the comment section about how that really plays into things. Fixed a bug where the player could take dead lords as prisoners. They should also fix dead heroes from spawning with new parties. And the developer console can now be enabled by pressing Alt-tilde. So that can now be jumped into the game immediately. Siege Tower ramp sync was broken for players who connected to a server after the ramp opened, and a number of other multiplayer changes here. Added defender and attacker icons to class loadout screen in siege mode. Now, another big set of situations here is the performance overhauls in 1.4.2. They are very nice. Like I've said, this is really a quality of life update, more so than a feature update like I think 1.4.1 was. A major GPU buffer memory reduction and GPU performance improvements. It's massive. Like, the game does not have as many issues as it had in previous patches. And I say that with every single patch, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that I've been saying that every time something gets better. Reduced GPU memory usage of the Flora system. Remember how I told you guys that the best way to really get the most value out of the game is reducing those Flora performance things in the menu. There's two that we'll take a look at when we jump into the game. This has now reduced that GPU memory usage, so you can actually crank them up and not have as many issues. Punctual light shadow rendering performance improvements as well, and starting issues when a resource loaded during gameplay. So things have, resource loaded during gameplay would be an example of this is when you're doing a fight and you have your army limit set to, let's just say 500, and there's 250 units on the battlefield on both sides. Well, let's say that 100 men are killed and it's time to spawn more. This should fix that stuttering that happens when those resources are spawned in, and should really kind of make the game a little bit more smooth. Fixed a bug that prevents the late attack direction selection that is made after readying starts and both attack and defend keys were pressed at the same time beforehand. This also caused clients to see wrong attack animations on their characters when the same case is generated. So an example of this would be if you're in the arena, you're holding down right click and someone goes to hit your sword, or goes to hit you and you go to block it, but you're kind of just a little ahead of the curve and you go to left click to return the sweep. Sometimes the timing can be off, the game can register that a little funky, and you'll actually receive the full brunt of that blow, and it'll do a lot of damage to you, just like it would normally if it hits you. So what this is saying is it kind of fixed that a little bit. Hopefully that helps you in not getting these kind of mystery hits where you thought your shield was up. You know, this caused clients to see wrong attack animations on their characters when the same case is generated. And your shield wasn't actually up when you took the blow. This should help to hopefully fix that. Separated the refresh rate option from the resolution and added aspect ratio values next to the resolutions. Fixed some text calculation errors. Shield physics bodies on back are corrected, so hopefully we'll get the way that the shield hangs on your back should help to deal with some things when it comes to damage. Crouching is prevented during an attack in order to prevent unwanted stances, and fix an issue about usernames with non-ASCII characters and single multiplayer now use different version numbers. So those are the patch notes. That is everything that we have to go into. And I'll be honest, there's not a lot to jump into in the actual game itself, but with the new noble weapons, Border Collie PT was nice enough to enable the cheat console and try and show off what some of those noble weapons are. Let's jump over here. We can see the horse whip is one of them. We're not sure if this is actually supposed to be one of the added noble weapons, but it's definitely something a noble would use, a whip for horses. We have the sharpened spatha blade with ring pommel, and you can actually just craft this thing outright. And you might have found this in the game, and this is not an actual noble weapon. They're saying that they were dispersed to the other nobles in the game, meaning that the other nobles have these weapons. So you might go through a marriage situation in a new playthrough and start to get access to these a little bit easier, or you'll see them on characters, and they should be lootable by those characters on a very low percentage. So you should start to see them coming up when you do these fights. Decorated broadsword looking nice and good right there. Got that Highland decorated blade being used. The light royal mace is another example of one. Like I said, you're going to see all these. This is from the cheat console, so these are all the maces pretty much in the game. In the past, I had not seen these in wide distribution amongst the other cities. Now they are way more evident, and you'll be able to see tons of them as you jump into the game. But without further ado, let's go over to the game and just kind of talk about some of these improvements. This will be a little bit lighter of a video because there's just not as much to go through. It's a lot of big quality of life updates. So let's jump right on in. So something I did promise before we actually jump into the game here is the game save file reduction. So if you go to your documents, you go to Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord, jump to game saves, to native, you can see the size reduction in all of these saves. So everything in this category, this is on 1.4.2. Everything below it is on previous versions. So you can see that this is a massive change in the size of those save files. So I did want to showcase that real quick before we jump right into the game here. And as you can see, we're going to take a look at trade real quick, just to show off some of these new items I was talking about. So if I sort this by value, you can also see the extreme inflation of certain items like noble bows, broad blade javelins, hooked javelins, which I've never seen before, tall heater shields, so on and so forth. This is my character the very first character I ever made, so this save has been through some shit. But we can see here that we've got a woodland longbow, which I'm pretty sure was in before, but a western yew-bow, a woodland yew-bow, a western longbow. These are examples of things that I have yet to really see added into the game. And I know that there might be some that you guys have seen and you can say, hey, no, that's been in my game. I've had it. And please do let me know in the comments that that is the case. And I know that some of them are. I think it was the woodland yew-bow was already in the game. But the western longbow and the western yew-bow are ones that I'm pretty sure are new. Western javelin does or has existed before, I just hadn't seen it. Hooked javelin, though, is again something that's a little bit more new. Now, if I jump over here to melee weapons, we should see some. The Pernash I've seen before. The Fullard Western Mace I have not seen before. And the Steel Chespoir, I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm sorry. I've seen before once upon a time, but I think I saw a higher tier version of this one. Maybe it was an iron one, I'm not sure, which would be a lower tier. But Morning Stars, things that were not as common before are starting to really become prevalent in some of these cities. If I were to jump over to my Kazate save, you would see a ton of variations of the Eastern Mace. So I'm glad to see that these are I don't know if they're just activated now by releasing one of the barriers by putting something in. I'm not sure what it is, but we can now take advantage of a lot of these more expanded weapon options in the game. Now, I did say there was some clipping issues with things that are Western male shirts. You can see that right here. It is pretty prevalent. If I jump over to another character, you can see it on this rusty northern leathern tabard over male. It's pretty much right around where it goes in that canvas area with the gambeson or whatever it is, and then say in this case, or the northern halberd does have this issue right there. So I did want to point that out. That will probably be fixed here by the time 1.4.2 goes live, but it is definitely worth me pointing out to you guys. Also, his helmet looks a little funky on him. So we've gone over those new items here. Let's also talk about the new clan screen, because the new clan screen it's nice. It's for the most part, it's not entirely shockingly different, but I think that there are a nice amount of quality of life updates that make it look pretty good. So the ability to rename your family is right here, just the same as it is if you want to rename your clan. It's up there. It's use that little quill. You just click that. If I jump over here to parties, though, before you click right here to change the actual clan role. Now I go to parties, click the relative party that I want to change the role of, and I've got all these right here. So I can change, oh, you know, Jarl the Coalbiter, he's my engineer, but I don't want him to be that anymore. I'm going to make Radagast the engineer now. And you can see, rather than having all of them to select, you can see which ones are available for that party. So for instance, Tadic Breakskull, it just has none. If I remove Hera Willowbark and make him the surgeon, it's a selectable option. Like I said in the past, you just had pretty much, you could choose whatever you wanted and it would remove whoever else was in that role from that role. And you've got her here. I can create a new party and do the same. But like I said, what this tells me is, since this is another party of mine, that in the future I will be able to put other companions into those parties and help out with their shortcomings. So for example, let's say Jarl the Coalbiter here. He's not the best tactician. He's not a good scout. So I could buy an additional scout and put it into his party. And that makes me hopeful that we're going to get some sort of expansion on the companion system and the clan system, because right now I've got 6 companions, and sure, I could really I could trim this down and make it so that I really only have 2 with emphasis on scout and surgeon if I really wanted to, and just buy scouts and surgeons for the rest of the parties. But hopefully we get an ability where these companions can actually go out and recruit their own companions for their parties. I would love to see that. Here's that breakdown too of what's in the individual parties here. So we can see I've got 40 cav, 40 archers, and then 30 infantry. So a real nice kind of succinct way to get an idea of what's going on. Like for instance, Jinda the Spice Vendor has got a ton of cavalry, good lord. And my garrison, I can see it's got a ton of infantry and a lot of really good archers. Which brings up a good point here, the fief management, which you can just do real nicely from here. I can see exactly what's going on. I know my militia, my food stocks, my garrison. I really, really like this. I love that it's all now complete through one screen. I don't have to go running around to dropping back and forth, make sure things are kind of going well. Like, Ellis, are you doing a good job? I mean, the walls look like crap, but everything else is okay. So it's really nice to see this. I can see which bound villages are in here and what those villages are making, their production. I love it. I love that this is just so concise now, and I can just click her to see what her stats are. Well, you know what? I don't really want her as a governor anymore. I can just change the governor. So again, I really, really love this overhaul and this kind of streamlining of the clan screen. And the last one here, though, is the other tab, and that is sweet. Look at this bad boy. So it used to just be pretty much this right here is all we got. But now we see that the Ironmonger uses iron to make melee weapons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, medium and heavy armor, as well as ultra armor and tools. Ultra armor is like tier 6 plus, I guess you could say. That's what was described to me from some of the modders. But then I go to the clothier. Okay, well, this takes flax to make linen. The tanner makes leather to make leather and leather armor. Or I'm sorry, light armor, sorry. And so on and so forth. So I can now see exactly what happens. I do this. It doesn't tell me there, but if I click, even if I go into trade at a city, there's a way that you can actually see what is being produced outside of just selecting it. What I mean by that is you can, I think it's actually when you go to purchase it tells you exactly what the result is. But like I said, it's much nicer now that I don't need to worry so much about what goes on here. Like, okay, there's 2 Ironmongers, which I intentionally did at Ox Hall to produce as much armor as possible so I could kind of experiment and take a look at some of that armor. And the result has been this armor, which I had not seen in the game before. But it's been in the game. I just hadn't seen it. So I did it for playtesting purposes. So you can use these advantages and kind of say, okay, well, I now know what an Ironmonger directly makes. So now I can make what I can have cities that focus on specific things. And I really like that. So with that, we have a very nice system here with the new clan system. I love it a lot. And like I said, over here, we're making a lot of peace. If you see this come up that says make peace with Sturgia, our kingdom will receive 122 tribute daily. And you look over here. You can now see in my current dinars, the third from the bottom, it says tribute from Battanians. So that tribute is kind of divided up amongst all of your kingdom. So when you jump to your kingdom menu and you see that, just press cancel for right now until that hotfix goes in. It will crash your game. I promise. I tried it. I shut off everything, and I still have the issue. Another nice little quality of life thing that is from 1.4.1, but I just want to focus on it, is this little option here. So if I select any of these forces, any of these cultures, I can now see... That's interesting. Britannian. Dead. I can now see that who they're at war with. I can now see who we are at war with. So it makes it pretty easy to determine what enemies are on the board. Even if we're at peace with them, we can still see who they're at war with without having to go into the encyclopedia. But one thing I did want to talk about too is the policies and how they have changed. Noble Retinues is a really good example here. This now requires tier 5 clans to lose 1 influence per day, and the party size of their leaders is increased by 40. So this has changed. A lot of these policies have had a little bit of their little tweaking to them in their requirements, increasing in a clan tier. So maybe the requirement was non-existent before. Now it'll say tier plus 5 plus clans now get this, or tier 3 plus clans now get this. Council of Commons is one that's had multiple passes. Each notable yields 0.1 influence per day to the settlement's owner clan. So a lot of these have changed. Do make sure you're kind of going through them. If you have ones that you're kind of realizing, man, I'm losing a lot of influence now all of a sudden. Well, it's probably because one of these now is draining from your influence pool more so than it was before. And if that's the case, don't be afraid to abolish this policy. You now can just do that. Well, you could always do that, but just use that ability to shut down any policies that are now negatively affecting your influence. This tier 3 clans gain 0.5 influence per day. So if you're trying to make your own kingdom, Noble Retinues used to be the one you had to do to get a nice party size, but just realize now that you're going to lose influence as a result of Noble Retinues. So I think Royal Guard is another good one here. Ruler's party size is increased by 60, but non-ruling clans lose 0.2 influence per day. So this one's really good if you're trying to create your own kingdom, because then you'll get 60 increase to your party size to help maintain your borders for the most part. So as a whole, I'm really a huge fan of 1.4.2. You can kind of see here what I was talking about with the color difference. I even had to send it to someone else, like, am I colorblind? What's going on here? You can kind of see with the color difference, like it's a kind of a lighter blue now versus just the stark white that is my name and my force. Hold down Alt to see your prisoners and wounded there, by the way. So I think 1.4.2 is an amazing patch here, and I really like this beta branch. And I've said this about a lot of beta branches so far, but there were ones that were not good. I think it was 1.3 that I said, don't do it, just wait. And this is another really solid quality of life update. And I hope that we're going to get another beta branch pretty soon to the next week. We did get a bit of a delay here because of the holidays, so I'm really excited to see this one and kind of play through it. There are going to be some bugs that are going to crop up over the weekend, but if you're thinking whether or not you should start a new campaign and jump in 1.4.2, I strongly recommend it. I mean, I will be playing 1.4.2. I'll be streaming it on the channel here with our Battanian campaign, Saturday and Sunday starting around 10 or 11 a.m. Pacific daytime. And I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway of Bannerlord. I've got one key to give away, so you can jump onto one of those streams and hopefully win the giveaway when I do it. But I think as a whole, great quality of life update. I think it's really exciting to see these things because it tells me that they're willing to change very drastically an entire screen. So if that's just the clan screen, I can't wait for this to apply to the party screen. Now there are really awesome mods that change the party screen, so go ahead and use those if you so wish, but we should hopefully start to get a lot of these really nice UI tweaks and quality of life updates, especially as the devs react to what we have said. I do have that community wish list up. I'm going to link that here at the end of the video. Please, 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 guys, go ahead and jump to that video and vote on that community wish list. I want to make sure as many votes kind of crop up for that wish list so the developers can see what's changing. One of the things on the wish list was incremental saves, an increased amount of auto saves. That's been added to the game. Now, I don't think that that was because of the wish list. I think it was always planned. But if we can continue to kind of show the developers what we want on a very concrete basis and saying, hey, there's 180 votes on this across this many thousands of votes. This is the percentage of people that really want this. It's going to help them prioritize what to put into the game. And right now, skill perks is at the top of the line. So if we take a look at the new skill perks, which you can see here, we get all the nice new icons here for two-handed, all the nice ones here for one-handed. Let's really quick go through the polearm ones, and you can jump into these when you jump into 1.4.2. But pikeman's going to increase your damage with your polearms. Cav is going to increase when you're mounted. This is when you're. This is just a general. I think it's supposed to be when you're on foot, but this is when you're mounted. Braced is really nice, and I have not been able to get this to work yet, but increases your chance to dismount enemy cavalry on successful hit. I've been trying to do it. I can't get it to work. Maybe you guys can. You can report back and tell me what it's like, but I've been using it to try to figure it out. We also get Keep at Bay, which is bonus to pushing opponents with a successful thrust attack with polearms, and increase militia recruitment in governed settlements by 1. Now, these two are pretty sweet. This is going to increase your swing speed by 5% and increases your infantry troops formation swing speed by 2%. Look at this one. Thrust damage by 10%. Nice. But infantry troops in the formation you're leading have plus 30 to their polearm skill. That's pretty nasty. Footwork, increase your combat movement speed with polearms by 2%, and then same thing with your infantry troops. Increase your chance to knock opponents down with successful swings, and infantry troops in the formation you are leading gain 3 hit points. You have Lancer, increase your speed damage bonus with polearms by 20%, and the same thing with those troops that you're leading. Increase damage against mount. Increase the mount itself by 70%. This was called Horse Killer before. It's now called Steed Killer. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Beast Slayer was the two-handed one. It was called Horse Killer before. Now it's called Steed Slayer. Sorry. And in the literally increase of damage. Okay, yeah, and it's 30% damage increase for infantry troops you're leading. Skewer is a 30% chance to stay couched if you kill someone, which is nice. You can carry that couched damage onto the next person, which is pretty cool. Government settlements gain +1 security per day. When you hit enemy's head with a polearm, you deal 50% more damage, which might be a little excessive. They're already pretty damn heavy in the damage numbers. But experience of garrison cavalry in governed settlements is increased by 20%, so you can level up cav very easily with this one. Standard Bearer, this one was present before, but troops in your formation take 20% less morale loss, and the governed settlements have their wages reduced by 20%, so garrison infantry is a little bit cheaper. Infantry in your party have better fighting skill in tight and shield wall formations, which is cool, and troops in the infantry you are leading increase their damage with polearms by 3%. This one really is all about the troops, versus this one is again about the troops, but you get the morale loss penalties and some different wages with infantry. Generous rations. Troops in your formation gain 5 hit points, reduce recruitment cost of infantry troops by 30%, and government settlements gain 1 militia per day and +1 XP per day for parties, which is nice. Then Sure-Footed helps with mount charge damage, and these just kind of progress all the way here to Way of the Spear. Every skill point after 250 grants you 0.2 speed and 0.5% damage increase with polearms. So we also get the secondary effects for all of your two-handed weapons, so please jump through some of those, guys, because a lot of them are awesome, like this word, which I don't want to even butcher. You can deflect arrows with two-handed weapons while changing block positions, which is awesome, and the garrison and governed settlements gain 10% more experience from battles. So you get a lot of really cool perks here in the two-handed skill tree, and I'm really excited because if they're just kind of working their way down the line, that means bow is next. Then after that, crossbow. So hopefully by midpoint this month, we will be able to shoot crossbows from horseback, and I'm really excited about that. And by the end of this month, throwing will have its overhaul done as well. Because remember, everything in the control line does not have all of its perks active. So I'm really loving these developments into the game, guys. I'm really excited to keep jumping through some of these beta branches, but let me know in the comment section below what your experience with the beta branch has been, or some things that you're really excited about for the future, or some of your favorite patch notes from this branch here today. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below, all that kind of fun action, but have a good one and take care.